Here's another segment of my garden tour on June 20th, 2025. This is part of the front yard. You can see behind me, I'm looking north, you're looking south, the shed. And back behind me to the west there is the Minesons and my Fuji apple tree. And I'll take you a tour of those after showing you some other spots first. This over here is my Scowler's willow. I planted it year before last, and it seems to be liking this spot and hopefully providing lots of food for native invertebrates, which in turn will provide lots of food for chickadees and wrens and bush tits. This is where I first planted the large flowered Calliope 2 years ago, and it died, but then last year it had about 10 seedlings, and I dug those up and spread them around the yard, and doing quite well. I recently planted some kinnikinnick, the ground cover in this area, and here's the original Oregon Sunshine. Just had one flower. It's so different from some of the others. And then I transplanted one of my own Osoberry or Indian plum seedlings here 2 years ago, and it is looking established. That sword fern at the base of the fence there is a volunteer. Outside the fence here, this is an area that's hard to keep water because it's all driveway gravel fill, and so it drains really well. So the Salvia Rose Queen that I put in here started from seed a few years ago, is doing well. And then I put in a couple of kinnikinnick, which hopefully will fill in and keep it covered. And over here I also put in a kinnikinnick, and that's our native bleeding heart that's come in from the other side of the fence. But it's a little bit too dry over here, and I didn't know that about this soil, and I planted this fuchsia here, which is still alive, but it will die unless I dig it up and put it somewhere where I keep it wetter. On the other side of the fence here, I have my two big oso berries, and this year the cedar waxwings moved on before they cleaned it out. It didn't really have that many, but one can eat these. The Native Americans did, better cooked and mixed with other berries for jam. This is our regular snowberry, which can be very aggressive and fill in, but this one has not been. And the flowers, despite being so small, are a real favorite of hummingbirds. This is my Delphinium trollifolium, which is done, but it's got seeds. Ooh, it's losing some of its seeds. And I would like it to spread out more around the yard. In behind the osoberry, I haven't done much back here. I put in our short Oregon grape, different species, and it is just now finally putting on some new growth. And I think this is a non-native or hybrid bleeding heart. The sword fern was already here, and this other fern from here is not doing so well. This is a cutting that I rooted last year of Ribes divaricatum, the spreading gooseberry. It has these really sharp thorns. I think it will probably be big enough to be blooming next year. This is actually more light than it gets where I took some cuttings in the park north of here. And I used to be able to walk through here, but the Oregon grape grows so well, and the osoberry, this being a male here, no fruits, it's completely blocked it off. But I can still push my way through here. Another huge Oregon grape. That was a tiny 1 gallon pot. And this osoberry I thought was a male. It's the same age as the others, but this year it has flowers. So maybe a female. This is my big patch of stinging nettle. But it's not getting as much sun as it used to because of the osoberry. And also my neighbor's quaking aspen is getting bigger and bigger by the minute. So nothing has found it this year. I had red admirals breeding in it 3 years ago. Although it does provide food for some caterpillars, as you can see here. And it's good addition to soups as well. So here's my Fuji apple, and I covered the apples with these maggot barriers this year, and I used up 7 bags, which are supposed to have 100 each, but none of them had quite 100. One of them only had 84. So I have a total of 677 deployed, and this is after I thinned out 3 to 5 apples away from each spur, and I also removed apples entirely from some of the spurs so there's a distance between the apples growing. It's supposed to be about more than 4 inches, 6 or so, between apples. In some cases I might have let them continue on, but for example here, this is 9 inches between those apples. So the tree is pretty heavily loaded this year, and I may get lucky and have no codling moths. I didn't get all the apples. See, there's one there I missed, but I ran out. I wasn't going to buy another 2 or 3 bags. See, in the understory here, here's another snowberry. It gets some powdery mildew, which is not a huge problem. It survives. See, here's several apples up there. But the codling moths have already laid their first batch of eggs. And see, there's codling moth in this apple. So let's see if that one continue on. If I let that one go, that moth will emerge later in the summer and then lay its eggs on the apples again in August and cause even more damage. So this one codling moth could become another 100 codling moths. Hopefully I got the maggot barriers on in time for the rest of them. Another native Oregon iris. My red flowering currant. This individual always blooms well ahead of the others. Every currant seems to have its own personality. This is my patch of cow parsnip that started from one plant that came up from seed I had scattered back in 2020. And it's now a nice, wonderful patch. This is supposed to be our native filbert. And you see it's providing food for some invertebrates. And it did not bloom this year, but I suspect next year it'll be its first blooming season. There's a whole bunch of the farewell to spring, which is just starting to bloom, and it looks like there's petal cutting bees, Kylie, that are eating it. And I have not seen the bee myself, but I now know what to look for. Nothing growing in here now. I got rid of a rhubarb that was here. I don't need 2 that are this big. Here's some 2 rushes that look very different. Volunteered at the same time. I haven't identified them for sure yet. But I'm letting them grow here. I think they were native. This is a native cascara, or chittum tree. And as it gets bigger, I'll probably add some more native plants in here. There's a lot of native Viola idunca in the yard. It free seeds everywhere, which is great. And what do I have back here? Well, this really red lobelia hybrid does not come back well. It needs a lot more water than I'm willing to give it. This is the native Lobelia cardinalis. I mean, the wild species, but it is not native to Oregon. It's just a pretty accent, and hopefully will attract hummingbirds. Here's a close-up of some of the maple logs that I scattered around the yard, and I drilled holes in them, hoping that they'll provide homes for various kinds of bees. And as the wood slowly decays over many years, it'll provide food for countless species of invertebrates and fungi, and add the diversity to the yard. Some volunteer potatoes, or remains from ones that I didn't quite get out. Volunteer nasturtiums. This is a fragrant Nicotiana alata that does not die over the winter. This is my Chandler blueberry that I am trying to protect from the birds. It's not, I had one ripe berry on it so far, but they will destroy half the crop or more if I let them. I need to cover this part over here still, it looks like. So this is my huge rhubarb, and it's doing very well here. Let's see, let's go to the center. Oh, this is chock full of plants. Some of my favorite plants. Well, here's the black currant. That is not giving me a whole lot of fruits, but I have had a problem with clearwing moths boring through the stems. This year I treated it with BT a couple of times. Let's see if that works. This hybrid spirea that my friend Craig Toomer gave me is doing very well, filling in. This is one of the 2 ocean sprays I have in the yard. Just started blooming, and the bees love it. This is our native oak, and this is a volunteer. So I'm letting it go, and it's doing quite well in that spot. It's leading out of it because it's getting shaded by the ocean spray as well as this 9-bark. I planted a few more natives in here, and I can't remember what they all are. We used to call this disporum. It's now known as something else, fairy bells. Here's our native strawberry. I put in a yellow violet here that died, or it died down. I don't know if it's just gone dormant or not. This is our wild ginger, and I have a few of them here. It's also from Craig. Of course, the yarrow everywhere on the fragrant popcorn flower. Here's some more of the viola adunca. This is the tiger lily, western tiger lily. We'll see if that survives the summer and comes back next year. This is a trillium that I have blooming here, and it produced 2 seed pods, one of which was pilfered by something. The other one I took in. I just transplanted this sword fern from the backyard. It had volunteered right at the base of the deck. It's a western azalea, and it's got a whole new growth thing here. I think I planted it too close to the 9-bark though, so I'm gonna move it out here next winter. This lavender is a holdover from the previous owners. They had 3 of them in here. This is a big pollinator garden, but almost nothing was native. No, absolutely nothing was native in the pollinator garden. Lots of European things. I probably will get rid of that at some point when I know what I'm going to replace it with. Here, this is the tall camas here. This bloomed in a nice big patch this year. This is the mother of all showy milkweeds. It's just starting to bloom. No sign of any monarchs yet, but I am looking. I had a western tiger swallowtail nectaring on the flowers here earlier this week. A lot of bees like it, and it's fabulously fragrant. It puts out offshoots here too, so I can dig these up, pot them up, and sell them. Oh, my plum tree is not doing so well. I'm not sure if it has a disease or if it just got injured. Looks like these branches might need to come off, and it has never produced very many fruits. This might be the most fruits I've seen in several years, but I did not prune it this year just to see if maybe that would help. We'll see. Now this is getting really full here. Here's the red currant. And it's really good in desserts and jams. Lots of the farewell to spring has come in here. The Calliope filled in. The purple comb flower is one of the holdovers from the previous owners. Native columbine in here, Collegia formosa. And this is our native prunella vulgaris, a native variety. It's very, very pretty, but it's getting crowded out, so it needs to come out in a forward spot. I'm going to dig up some of the plants and spread them around this year. Here's our native buckbrush, Ceanothus cuneatus, one that I planted in early 2020. It'd be fun if it reseeded around the yard. And then to finish up over here, this is our western coneflower. Oh, here's a Melasotes, one of the longhorn bees. They really like this western coneflower. This is the same genus as the showy coneflowers from the Midwest. This one doesn't have any ray flowers. The bees find it perfectly well without any trouble. This little plant bug. Volunteer sunflowers here and there. Chickadees. This area here, I do want to put more and more native plants in here, but it's somewhat of a kitchen garden. I have the culinary sage, but it gets huge. It grows into a radius about out to here, about maybe the whole plant covers a diameter of at least 4 feet, so I need to move it away from the path. I might just get a young plant and start over. The oregano and French sorrel, which I just cut back. This peach I cut way back, and you're not going to even notice it. I did put in another cut-leaf silver puffs here that's dormant, hopefully. This is the tufted hairgrass. Look how that cute little hairs on the leaves. These are some volunteers. It looks like baby blue eyes. That just came up when I watered this recently. And I got, because it's an open space now, I don't have much growing in here. I would do a zucchini, and stupid sunflower did not do well this year. I think I wasn't here to water it when it was young. I started these pinwheel marigolds from seed. Twinberry honeysuckle. This is our riverbank lupin, which is a seedling from the adult plant, which is dying. Maybe they just have a limited age span. This is one of the non-native asters that was in the yard when I moved here. Another one of the marigolds. Here's my row of leeks. They're supposed to be actually harvestable in a couple of weeks. And this non-native yarrow is from my neighbor. Can't hurt to have more pollinators. Bubbly birdbath. And I put some calendulas in here. I kept stepping on that one, so I put the cone over it. Here's the wild bergamot, Monarda fistulosa, and it's got some flower heads just coming on. And this is the absolute top bumblebee plant. And you can see here I have tomatoes this year. This is where I decided to plant my tomatoes. They're doing exceptionally well. I have 8 tomatoes, 2 of each of 4 varieties. Marcellato, which is, I'm sure what those are. There's a couple of black crims in here, and there's a couple of Cherokee purples, and I don't know how to tell those apart yet. And then there are 2 purple zebras, which are a smaller plum, and those are the small one in the back is clearly that. Here is an offspring of my big showy milkweed in the back. You know, the front behind me. This might be the Howard McMinn manzanita that I got from Doak Nursery. Hopefully it'll become a shrub about this tall, 2 or 3 feet tall, and bloom in the winter and provide food for hummingbirds. A huge patch of farewell to spring in here, some volunteer sunflowers, volunteer riverbank lupin. Oh, this is an offspring of the serviceberry that's in the front, so there'll be a big serviceberry shrub here. It'll be really nice. This is a tigridia type of iris that I stuck in here about 4 years ago. It keeps getting bigger. Doesn't take up too much space. Peppermint. I'm trying to keep it in a pot, but it likes to get out of it. Easy to pull out. This native or semi-native cardinal monkey flower volunteered in here. I think this is actually a plant from last year, but it's got seedlings here and there throughout as well. There's a lot of this Rebecca, brown-eyed Susan, also called yellow-eyed Susan. I got from my neighbor. It comes in various colors. It reseeds prolifically, but it's easy to control. So this is a plant that grew here last year, and here's one of its babies. This is the purple zebra plum. This is either black crim or Cherokee purple. And this one here is going to be the Marcellato. It's got lots of green tomatoes.
They're supposed to be ripe maybe in about 3 weeks.
And this is a big yellow dahlia that I did not dig up. And I put sluggo around the base of it when it was just starting to come up, and that did the trick. The brand new shoots as they emerge from the ground are loved by slugs and earwigs. So, and I have to sprinkle a little bit of Sluggo Plus around it for every 3 weeks or so to keep them out of it. Otherwise the earwig will get in there and they also just chew on it all night long. I used to have a rosemary right over there that flopped into, I never kept it pruned. So this time I started over, and I'm gonna keep this rosemary pruned to a reasonable size. This is my
epazote, which I started from seed 5 years ago, and it now reseeds here and there throughout the entire yard. So I let one grow every year. It's a wonderful addition to bean soups.
Some more of the riverbank lupin that volunteered over here. And the volunteer sunflower, actually that sunflower right there is the one in the air that's not a volunteer that's doing okay. Royal flush, let's see. So over here I have another red cardinal lobelia. These are my sunchokes. There used to be a patch here, a patch there, and a patch there. I think the previous owners put 3 different tubers in the ground, but they are so unbelievably prolific. I don't need any more. It's a nice native bee taking a nap. This is one of my red flowering currants that has a different leaf shape and blooms later than the rest. Everyone's an individual. Here's a couple more of the Peruvian peppers.
I'm not sure why there are some half-eaten blueberries in here, except for the house finches or maybe the squirrels. But this one here is the ojo de pescado. Very little peppers, little round peppers that are super spicy, but extraordinarily flavorful. And this one is the corazón de motelo, which means turtle heart. So it's bigger, like the size of a very large cherry with a pointed tip. Thyme. More of the blueberries. These are a variety called Duke. This is our native Oregon saxifrage, or not saxifrage, heuchera, coral bells. Uncle Bryson gave me this hedge nettle here. This is one of our native agastaches. I think it's agastache. Native orange honeysuckle was attacked by aphids. I have some more stinging nettle over here that volunteered. Ocean spray. Beautiful plant. Here are my potatoes, and I have 6 different varieties in here. So 12 pots, 2 pots, each variety is in 2 different pots. I can't remember what they all are. The yellow fin, there's Adirondack Blue, Carola, Purple Majesty, what's this one called? Huckleberry Gold. There, I could pull some up now and eat them, but I'll be patient. They still need water for a while. My neighbor gave me this cherry in a pot and said it was native. I'm not so sure. It hasn't bloomed yet, but if it turns out to be a native, I will, in fact, leave it. If not, it'll come out next year. Oh, I planted some native orchids here. This is our rattlesnake plantain. This is this year. Here's a snowberry. It's got monkey flower. Another Solomon seal type. I haven't memorized the names. This is transplanted sword fern from the backyard. This is an experiment to try to
Manzanita columbiana, the hairy manzanita. I have some seeds in there, but I don't think they'll come out. Here's a bee house. They only have a very few that are full. And finally, our native snowbird.